Hey, it's Sean from the Commander's Brew. You are not imagining things. This is another episode on Rocco Cabaretti Caterer. It's because there's too many angles to brew from. There's too many. Let's get to it. So seriously, there's so much to explore here. If you didn't watch the last episode, give it a watch. I kind of explain everything and I go pretty deep on an equipment deck with a secret commander. That's the thing about Rocco. Perfect for secret commanders. You got one in the command zone. X equals whatever you want. That gets your secret commander. You can build the whole deck around something that used to only have one color before. We did SRAM with equipment. As another example, we could have Roccoed out Bergie as our first creature for 3. Maybe do some kind of storm thing. All our spells add red mana. Maybe we grab Captain Lannery Storm. Maybe, is this a storm thing? I mean, Storm's in her name, but now we're getting treasures when we attack. That also helps us storm off by getting more mana to do things with. Maybe all those treasures just give us some kind of artifact ability. Artifacts entering the battlefield, artifacts leaving play. I don't know. But I do know some of the core of the deck is going to remain the same as last week. We've still got things to bounce Rocco back to our hand. Roaring Primadox is always going to have room in a deck like this. Aganjo Freeriders, same deal. It has to be a white creature we return, but that's Rocco. That's what we care about. Temur Sabertooth, another classic commander card. I'm not going to go too deep onto it, but it's a great card. We can put Rocco back into our hand and cast him without extra commander tax to get more creatures. And again, the way you look for a secret commander deck is what formerly monocolored commander really wanted some more colors. I think it's auras. I think we're going with Light-Paws. Light-Paws sounds like a really cool commander, being able to cast auras and getting a second aura for free of our choice right from the deck. They'll have to have different names, but that's what commander's all about. That shouldn't be a problem. But man, being stuck in mono white sucks. But now we're not. We've got red and we've got green. But here's the wild thing about auras. I just assumed that all of those cards that talk about equipment and make an equipment good are just for equipment. But it turns out a ton of them are actually good for auras. So it's not just those creatures that bounce Rocco back to our hand. We've got quite a few overlaps from the last deck. SRAM, last time secret commander, also draws us a card when we cast auras. Our Den, Intrepid Archaeologist, also moves auras around, which is arguably even more important than equipment. Rayav, Master Smith, whenever a creature you control that's enchanted, I don't know why, I just don't read that stuff. I'm thinking about equipment, I'm reading about equipped, it's red-white, that's why I'm thinking that, but double strike until end of turn. And with Light-Paws, we're going to get some pretty big auras that buff us up significantly, so double strike will do a lot of work. Sigarda's Aid, I think, is the reason I think this way. And yeah, it does say aura and equipment spells have flash, but the second half of this card only refers to equipment. There's more words on this card about equipment, so I guess I just stored it in my brain as an equipment card. But it's not. It's also auras. There's a chunk of cards that we could overlap with, but we also are dealing with a lot more auras, so I think we got to look at some kind of Enchantress Brew. Eidolon of Blossoms and Citizen Champion are a couple of great cards that care about enchantments entering the battlefield, and we draw cards from it. Citizen Champion's case, that card also gets bigger. There is a little bit of a detail with cards like SRAM. SRAM actually asks you to cast the card in order to get the trigger. Light-Paws won't credit the second aura for SRAM, but it will trigger constellations. So whenever we cast an aura with Light-Paws and one of these constellation cards out, we're going to draw 2. One for the first aura and one for the one that Light-Paws gets. And so let's talk about auras. I mean, that's what this deck's all about, right? Let's say we cast an Armadillo Cloak. This is a fine enchantment. It's an aura for 3, and it technically doesn't have lifelink. That wording is distinct from lifelink, and the Gatherer makes a really big deal to say that this works differently. You can put this on other creatures, opposing teams' creatures, and we, the controller of Armadillo Cloak, are the ones gaining that much life. If you put it on an opponent's creature, it's kind of like they can't attack you, because if they do, they'll do damage to you, but you'll gain it right back right away. And I think the first aura we're going to want to grab with Light-Paws is going to be Mark of Fury. It's another constellation trigger for anything that cares about it, But the most important part is that at the beginning of our end step, it comes back to our hand. And it's only red, so we can cast it another turn and keep getting constellation triggers. Another nice scenario is to cast Unquestioned Authority. It's going to enter the battlefield and draw us a card in addition to any constellation triggers, and the creature will have protection from creatures, which is sort of like saying unblockable, which makes it a nice pick to grab all that glitters. I suspect this will make the creature pretty huge. I want to remind you that the second aura you find has to go on Light-Paws, so all that glitters will be going on Light-Paws with this strategy, so the first one should probably go on Light-Paws too. But then that's where our den comes in. Our den can just move them all to someone else. Not just equipment. I'm a big fan of the idea of giving some creature we own indestructibility, and then Light-Paws finds Timely Word for the second of that effect. And Shackles is another cool aura to get the loops going. We can cast it for 3, which means we get to tutor up any other aura for 3 or less, and we can return this to our hand for a single white, and then cast again for 3, so you see where I'm going with this. Multiple triggers. We're basically an Enchantress deck, so I'm interested in ways of making our auras cheaper. Jukai Naturalist is going to do nicely, brand new card from Neon Dynasty. Transcendent Envoy only applies the discount to auras, but that's what the deck's all about, so no problem. And then get a load of this. Danitha, Capuchin, Paragon, Aura, and equipment spells cost 1 less. I don't know if I ever read that aura line. I just assumed it was equipment the whole time. When I think of Danitha, I think of equipment. Is this like that Berenstain Bears thing? I mean, my mind's blown here. First of all, I'm shocked that so much of the deck is the same because half the creatures that care about equipment also care about auras. So it's kind of like this wasn't a full deck tech. So should we do another? Okay, last week I hinted at how cool it would be to do a Moraug deck, but adding green. So that's what we're going to talk about. Moraug obviously wants extra land drops, and it's so hard to do that in mono red. You got to have some kind of artifacts or fetch lands. But the key I want to remind you is you want to play those lands in your second main phase after your first combat, because the additional combat that Moraug grants, the additional one is where you untap things. So you have to do that after you've had your main combat. Otherwise, it goes like this. You play your land in your first main, the additional untap combat comes first, but no one's ever attacked, so the untapping is pointless. Now you attack, turn everyone sideways. Now you get your regular combat, but everyone's already tapped and the regular one is not the one that untaps them. Does that make sense? You just got to play them on the second main. So still, in the Moraug version, we're still going to ramp like crazy. And I think we want to go creature based with Llanowar Elves, Elvish Mystic, Findhorn Elves, any of those little mana dorks to get us mana, to get us closer to casting Moraug, or should I say, tutoring them up with Rocco. And then I think phase 2 for the deck is to have a few creatures that grant us mana when we attack, so that every time we get a combat step, we get even more mana. This would be cards like Magda to give us a treasure every time she turns sideways. Captain Lannery Storm, as I mentioned before, is a great way to get treasures upon attack. And some of the best for this is Grand Warlord Rada. This is a way to get multiple mana just for attacking. So we've paid 9 mana to get Moraug. We've attacked with these creatures and gotten a little bit more mana. Now we've got our second main phase. Here's where we want more lands to come into play. This is where green shines. Harrow. Costs us 3 mana, puts 2 basics into play. That's 2 additional combat steps, and all those attacking creatures are going to give us more mana. Migration Path costs an additional 1, but we still get 2 basics that way. Splendid Reclamation is one of the best ways to get multiple lands on the battlefield if you're using regular fetches. And even if you don't have a lot of money and you have the expensive fetches, it still counts for cards like Evolving Wilds or Terramorphic Expanse. I haven't even talked about the white cards yet, and I just want to highlight one in particular. It's a card I've always want to run, but I've never really felt a right home for it. Chance for Glory. Everyone out there thinking, but what if all those mana generating creatures die on the first combat attack? Well, this is what Chance for Glory is about. Now they're indestructible, and I can attack, get a bunch of mana, play some instants or sorceries to get more lands on the field, to get more combat steps, and I can keep this train rolling. And that's even before that extra turn of mine. When I do get that extra turn, I'll have another chance to play some more lands and get some more combat steps. Moraug. This is the Moraug deck I want, but it's a Rocco deck. They're all Rocco decks. There's 2 there for you. I promise I won't do another Rocco deck for at least a couple of weeks. But thanks for going on this journey. I really do want to hear in the comments what other kinds of secret commanders you want to run with Rocco. But until next time, you keep being you. The world's a better place for it. See you next time.